Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new episode of Correct Chat Podcast. Today we are joined by a special guest. I'll give her a bit of introduction, Michelle. She's an accomplished startup mentor, business transformation consultant, certified life coach. She's the founder of Maven Consultancy, and she's a mother. I think that's the most important role.
So you did visit my LinkedIn. Thank you, guys. That was the introduction is literally all that is out there. Exactly. So thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
I mean, Michelle didn't ask you questions, so it was difficult finding a lot of information about you,
So now you know what is out there, legally out there.
Legally out there.
So yes, perfect. Through conversation, probably you can get more.
Exactly. So, we want to know the unofficial stuff now.
Yes, let's do that.
But how would you introduce yourself out there?
Meghna. नाम तो याद रहे.
नाम तो सुना होगा.
सुना तो, I mean, that is too presumptuous of me at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe after your podcast. But
wow.
But याद रहना तो चाहिए after the conversation.
But I think what Michelle want to know is if you want to describe Meghna to the world, how would you describe yourself?
I would call myself Meghna, self-discovery in progress.
Okay.
That's how I think of myself, because Meghna is a daughter of Vidyasagar and Jyoti. It started from there. Mm-hmm. Then Meghna moved on and tried to figure out her own thing, did a couple of things.
Yeah.
So for some, Meghna is the HR head. For some, Meghna is a business owner. For a lot of people, Meghna is a content creator. Mm-hmm. For this very special person, Meghna is mom. Mm-hmm. And an extra special person, Meghna is his wife. And then for friends, it varies. Meghna is a cartoon, is the guide, is the mom, is the 3 a.m. friend, and so and so. So Meghna is a sum total of all of these perceptions and more, but she's still exploring.
Okay.
Wow. I think it would also depend on a person to person whom you meet. So for me, you are a content creator because that's the first impression you give. That's how I found. Right?
Correct.
For some others, it would be something else.
Exactly.
Completely different. Yeah.
That's what I want to say, that we all wear so many hats. You can't be defined into one thing. A lot of people just say that if they introduce themselves and say, I am this, and they say their designation, which is great, probably because that is what they meet. But when you meet your friend, you don't really drop the designation. But when you go to, say, a BMW store, you would say, I'm a BMW owner, but you're not going to be talking about it. So you are so many things. It depends on the context of who you're meeting.
Wow. Recently when I realized the same thing, for people who I meet through Correct Chat, this guy hosts a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? And for some people, professionally, I'm into digital marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy is a digital marketer.
Yeah.
So, I'm also between these two, digital marketing. How do I, even if I go ahead, I'm not confused, how do I introduce myself? Should I say I'm into digital marketing?
Just say Vishal. Naam to yaad rahega.
Right. I think that's the right answer.
The name is the first thing that you leave it. Yeah. And then later you can discover them, what they want to know, and tell that part of yourself.
Wow.
So how did you, there's so many stuff you have done, so many hats you wear. What was the first one? Was it in HR? Did you get into HR and then you went to business transformation? How did the journey start?
So qualification-wise, yes. But this is the funny part. Yeah. I didn't even get into HR as the first thing. Okay. So in India, you have something as, I'm from the CBSE schooling thing. So you have +2 and then you get to take a subject. And then I took commerce. And even though the toppers don't really take, I was a topper, I took commerce because it was always a dream of a 15-year-old Meghna that someday I'm going to have a business of my own. Okay. And no one in my home has had a business. We are the salaried people. And that was a thing, and I did not know how to do it. And then my dad is like, no, but you can't just take commerce. You have to have some professional degree. So I first pursued CA.
Okay.
Chartered accountancy. Okay. And then I realized, so that came before HR. And then, sorry if the CAs are watching it, but I found it so boring. I was good at taking exam, but I realized I was a misfit there because most accountants are poker face and they don't even talk. And I was dressing different, talking different. It was just what am I doing? And that is when I realized that, okay, then luckily for me, I had the access to a career counselor back then from my institute. And they said that you should actually you should be in marketing. You're meant for marketing communication. I was like, no. Then I asked my dad, in the company that he was working me. And I said that, who is the man who decides that who should grow and who should not? Who decides who will be hired and who will be fired? that's HR's job. I'm going to be the HR. So I thought that CEO with time lagega. So let's start with HR. And that is how I did my MBA in HR. And then, that is how like 15, 18, 20, Meghna like kind of found her way.
Yeah.
And then you realize that also HR, all right, it is then in a lot of companies, it is kind of a support function. Then I chose that, okay, so these are the companies that I don't want to work in.
Yeah.
And I moved into media, where you are like a decision maker. So one of the first cricket channel of India, I was in the core team and we set that whole thing up at very early. I was just 22.
Right.
And then, you pitch yourself and they like you and they let you do it. So then I was always in HR, but I was also always a kind of an influencer within the organization, transformation, decision maker.
Okay.
So sometimes you think that you're following a path based on the opportunities that are coming for you. But when you look back, there was literally someone guiding you from one job to the other, one experience to the other. And all that you do, whether it is like working in a call center to working somewhere else, it all ties up beautifully in the future.
Yeah.
Because again, the present you is like all of those experiences and their learnings, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's super cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So all of this is happening where in India?
Many places.
Okay.
So I've done my schooling from 13 places in India, 13 schools.
Okay.
And why is that? Government job?
Dad again is into projects. So he would complete one project and move. So we were not in the army, but we had like an army kind of a life. So that also made me always so adaptable. Meeting new people was never an issue. Always a new girl in school. So by the time someone gets used to it, it was new set of friends, etc. Did again, like I said, college from 2 different colleges, CA, and then all of this HR. Then jobs again. I think my first internship I did somewhere, and then some other companies. There are companies where I've joined them twice. Like I left them 2 years later, I joined them again because they wanted me because they were on scale. So a lot of those movements have happened within India. But the place that I work the most is Bombay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the place. But because my job required me to travel, it was a lot. The last job that I did in India, I had 5 countries reporting to me in the matrix. So then it was super cool.
Okay. Wow. And how did you come to this part of the world then?
Love brought me here.
Okay. Nice.
It was love. Like literally, I was the vice president HR of FADV, First American Group Company at that time. I was like, this is not working out. Anyone who's been in a long distance relationship, it's like you're living with a ghost of a boyfriend. Because for all practical purposes, this person is not here. And then in my case, our time zones were also so difficult because he was also traveling he was based in Muscat, but his investments were mostly in UK and US. So he was like, it was crazy. So you would wake up at 3 a.m. to talk to him and you were like groggy and like, what conversation can you have? So then I remember I went on a holiday for him and I said, you know what, let's just break off because this is not working out. And because I don't want this thing. So it's like, will you marry me?
Wow.
That's 2 different spectrums happening side by side.
I was like, and I still remember because we were sitting in Oman and like it was a night before my birthday and it was kind of very windy and we were on this kubus and that this thing is flying. I'm like literally holding on to my bread that it does not fly because I don't know why we were sitting outside. Of course, we're sitting outside because we didn't want to be, when you're dating, so you want some privacy. So, and then I'm having in my thought, I'm like, isko pyar se bolte hain ki abhi let's finish it. And when you move to Bombay or we both move to US or whatever that was planned at that time, then we will see where it goes.
Right.
And he was like, okay, I was not prepared. He didn't have a ring, but he wanted to probably on my birthday or he wanted to see where my head is at. And he's like, let's get married. I'm going to get Eid holidays in some time. I'm going to come talk to the parents and then we should get, I'm like eating. I'm like, okay, that sounds, I'm like, but you're supposed to propose. Like, how is this going? Like, it was literally logical. Like, okay, this is the next steps. This is what we should do. And then I realized, oh my God, where is my moment?
Yeah.
What just happened? And then you're like, it was literally as if following the life path. And then you're like, okay, this guy proposed. I'm thinking how to do it, what I'll do. Okay, so that means I have to resign now because 3 months of notice period. And
this is all happening in that moment.
In that moment.
Okay.
Not focusing that this guy wants to marry me. I'm thinking the logistics of marrying him. And then leaving my country, leaving my home. I used to live with my son. Brother used to live with me. My parents didn't live in India back then. So it was super cool. And then, of course, on my birthday, then everyone called and I'm like, guess what? I don't have a ring, but I think I'm getting married. The guy has to buy a ring, but yeah, I think it's happening.
Yes.
Imagine, like one she's talking about
Yeah.
breaking up, and then he's asking about like getting married.
Yeah, and he was my best friend because we've known him by that time already.
Yeah.
I had known him for 15 years anyway.
Yeah.
Like we were best friends. We've seen each other's
Mhm.
horrible mistakes.
I want like
Yeah.
like if a reaction could be captured, like when you ask about breakup, his reaction, and then it says let's get married, your reaction, it would
And
be
the
like,
phone wasn't there. That's the fun part. There's nothing. It was not for the camera. There was no Instagram at that time. And but see how destiny works. So this happened in April.
Yeah.
And like he said, during the Eid holidays, we got married in August that year.
Okay.
The Eid was in August. So in July, he came between this thing. 2 days, the parents were like, they were just wanted us. They kind of, everyone other than us knew that they will end up
Okay.
together. And we're like, no. But anyway, so they're like, okay, high time. Yeah, right. Okay. And then it just happened. Like 1 month, within 1 month, engagement, next, whatever.
Yeah.
And and we had honeymoon after, I think, 1 year because
because I think you're fixing all the logistics.
yeah, our logistics because it takes 3 months to move. I had projects in my hand. Seriously, it was logistics. And then he was in UK, like whatever. But then, yeah, it was super cool.
Right. And how long have you been in UAE now?
It's been 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we moved 8 years back. I moved here when my daughter was 1.5 years old. So moved here as a new mom. That was the time I had taken a sabbatical. I mean, extended motherhood break, you call it.
Okay.
Because again, I was one of those who thought that I think children are a gift. And then if and when I ever wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be a hands-on mom. Not that women can't balance both. But especially for anyone who is raising their children away from their countries, and especially if they are from our region like India, Pakistan, you have a lot of people, your parents helping you, supporting you.
Yeah.
Right.
But here, all you get is like nannies, which is great. But then I wanted to be there. I did like a project, like I said, I followed conscious parenting and I wanted to be there, me, my husband and our daughter.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would not have missed it for anything else. And that is exactly when I started writing because this was an experience that I did not have any benchmark with or any prior experience of.
Right.
I've never been a Masi or a Bua to even know Choto Bacha, like how they are. That was never a case. I knew more about pups than babies. And here I was taking care of one.
How different was that?
It's very different. Pups are easier.
Okay.
This is your child. You have so much responsibility for their physical, mental, emotional well-being. And this is a kind of love that, I mean, I know as cliche as it sounds, there is no other love which comes closer to it. What you feel for your child, it was something like very divine. And so her everything was super important for me. And that is where I started writing.
Nice.
So I met one author here in Dubai and she's like, Meena, you're good to look at. Have you heard of Instagram? Are you on Instagram? I said, yeah, but like, she's like, why do you put it out there? You write so well.
Yeah.
Post some photos. And it started. And I never knew. The first day I put a picture up with something about my experience in Dubai. My new mom moved here. And I had like 150 people following me on that day. I was like, 150 people, and these are women, right? They are interested in what I have to say.
Right.
And I already had a website, a blog, which was into like 2-3 other countries it was already translated. So I knew writing, but content creation, as you would know, is a whole different, because it's an AV model.
Yeah.
So you're also talking to the camera. It's like monologues to the camera and engaging through that. And that started happening. But I was also one of this person I was against putting my daughter's life on the camera. Right. I respect others who do it because just because she's my daughter, that does not give me the permission to put her personal life out there. Or when she's like sad, put the camera on her face and show her emotions to the world. That doesn't feel right with me. Yeah. So it was about my motherhood and what I'm feeling. And she was a part of it. It later turns out that she's 3 years old and she enjoyed it. Nice. So then she would I will be on the live and she'll be like walking around there and there's like, hi guys. Yeah.
But how old was she when you started this?
She, like I said, she was 1.5 years old, around 2 years, second birthday around that. In fact, now that you said it, was it her second birthday? I started her blog, my blogging, and then the following January 1st. Like I woke up on January 1st, like, let's make an Instagram account and let's call it Love Live and Little One. That was what it's called. Okay. And then now it has become like Meghna Dikshit official. But it is very innocent. I didn't even know what this is going to be.
Were you nervous while putting out content, like what the people perceive, or you were like, you know what, this is me and this is I don't care? And,
I think because the space was never about what others should like or would like. It was an outlet, because it was literally, I came from a blogger's mindset.
Yeah.
So when you're writing blogs, if you're that old, then it was always about how your projection and your observation of a topic, and you put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is never forced down someone's throat. So if you like it, you'll read my blog. If you don't, it's all right. I literally treated Instagram like that. So for me, it was that. It was one picture and a lot of writing. Because back then there was no videos on Instagram. And it was a very sweet, it was like a, picture and blog. It was like sharing some photo with it. And that is where it was. Until today, I must tell you that I now have 250,000 people engage every day and all of those. But even now, my page, I refuse to, it's not a real estate for ads. It is not a place where I say, oh, buy this and do that and whatever, because I do associate myself with brand, but it's always my voice. Like even meeting you guys before I asked what you guys do. It is nothing else, because it's the energy I need to align it.
I think your profile, it's more about yourself. Like you have done your own branding in it, and it's something to talk about yourself.
I mean, you make me sound very narcissist. No, but it is about myself. But it is my page. It's a peek into my world.
It's a peek into your world.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, what does your daughter make of it now?
Oh my God, my daughter was very heartbroken when I changed the name from Love Life Little One to Meghna Dikshit. And that I only did because when she turned 6, actually, I said that she should have her own page for expression.
Okay.
And she has a private page, which is only like our close relatives. And she is a beautiful content maker. In fact, she's a very good editor.
Nice.
Because nowadays, and she even draws on Procreate and all of that.
Yeah.
So for that, she makes her edits and she posts, and she has this amazing transitions. And that is her page. So I said that you have to build your own brand, your own expression and content. Because I'm a big believer in anyone who's putting a content out there, through writing or speaking or through their art, whether dance or others. This is like you have some emotions and some value that you're putting it out there. And it should not be a copy paste of someone else. It should be authentic.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I thought that when she's 7, she doesn't have to be under my shadow. She should be on her own. So she's like, but mom, you have so many followers. I said, later when this becomes a bigger brand, I'll put you in. But you have to, nepotism will happen, but it'll become something. Have your own voice. I think that's important.
Yes. And so in this journey, what were the challenges that you faced?
In content creation journey?
In content creation and then raising your daughter also. And so you're doing both of them simultaneously, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Challenges. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I think I'm very privileged, because if you'd see what challenges, I can't say that there are that many, because I'm very mindful of the fact that I'm doing it because I also have a house help. I also have a cook. I also have, an assistant taking care of my emails, etc. So I'm kind of privileged. Mm-hmm. So I cannot say that, oh, I did it. I was also cooking in the morning and then taking care of my child and doing. So I think a big credit goes to the support system that I've had. Mm-hmm. And also my husband is a very hands-on father. Yeah. So I cannot say that raising her was only my duty and I did it. Then for 2-3 years, my parents actually moved here. For 2-3 years, they moved here to Dubai to be around, because I wanted her to get that feel of having her grandparents around. And kids learn a lot from grandparents. I've been raised by my grandparents too. So I wanted her to get that proximity, and good for me that my dad decided to move to Dubai for 2 years to be close to us. So like I said, there's a lot of privilege here, which I want to acknowledge. Having said that, the challenges are not the big ones, but the day-to-day ones. Yeah. It's always the small things. Like whether should I take this more project, but that means who's going to take care of Anika at that time? Anika's the name of my daughter. And how am I feeling? What is it that, okay, I have left this big career, and then I want to restart it. Can I take can I wear another hat while doing all of this? And I think one of the bigger reason in content creation I realized is that I've done it. I've done modeling. I've done all of that. When I was going to a lot of these events and I realized that I had more to it. It had become like a vanity project. Okay. It was like, okay, I do this. Then I realized that I have to grow. I have to become better. So people or other mothers find it inspiring. Yeah. Otherwise, just seeing what Meghna wears and how she says, and it's just so repetitive. So if I have a 6 years journey now on Instagram, then it also has to be, there should be growth.
Yeah.
I can't still be saying that this brand and this is the
Exactly.
best. Like I can't. So I'm someone who does not like getting saturated. So those were the challenges. And also initially when you see you've been working so hard and you have certain work ethics, and then suddenly some other people come in and overnight they have 25,000 followers and 30,000. I would be lying if I said that did not affect me.
Yeah.
Then I realized, I went inside, I'm like, why is it affecting me? Because right now my entire persona and life is depending on content creation.
Yeah.
So I have to have a wider, things to me
Yes.
to define Meghna, so that this is there, because it started from a very pure space
Yeah.
of expression, of connection, of community. Now it is becoming like, oh, she's charging 3,000, oh, maybe I should also charge 6,000 or whatever. So I didn't want to get into that mindset.
Yeah.
Or then get into like, oh, I should buy followers or likes or whatever. Because when you become desperate in anything, and not just content creation anywhere, then you take certain calls which may not be very authentic to you. And I realized that eventually this was not aligning with myself first, and it was also not making me grow more.
Yeah.
So I decided to then start, doing more consulting work. Started to again go back to corporate, make my way from stay-at-home mom to boss mom. That was again a journey. And that was challenging, but those challenges are something that I wish that made me do better. Like when you go extra prepared. Like if you know that you've not worked for 3 years and you're going to meet the CXOs and want to tell them how to run their company or how to make their organization design, then you got to be like there.
Yeah.
And for that, you have to prepare and take tests and like classes and certificates and whatever. And that became more fun. So those challenges motivated me.
I think you're being modest by saying that you were privileged. I wouldn't say that. Okay, I completely understand. Everyone has a different household. They have different situations in their household. But we could also say that you're smart enough to use the opportunities that were there in front of you.
I agree.
Right.
See, that also comes. And now that I have, because I'm also, eventually I became a life coach for women, and I'm now certified for women empowerment and life coaching. So I think that came importantly because I realized that, and you very well pointed it out, is that some of these small choices that made that actually helped me get the most out of life. So there are many other people also who can afford to have this, but they have their own conditioning. Like a mother might feel, because she's been taught that unless she's cooking, she would not, the family would not be fed. Or asking husband for this task is like, no, he's so tired or whatever. Or like my husband is like this, he would not help. But like you set the rule, you set the boundary, you tell him, you communicate with him. Because I don't think men also don't come with a manual. They've seen their mothers. And it is a different generation. So you need to sometimes tell them that what is the help they need. And many times I see that even when your partner wants to lend a hand, etc., a lot of women are like, nahi, aise nahi, like don't do it, and they control. So they are like, they feel like an employee to their wife, which is also not. And let them do it with their own way. So you also have to give them autonomy. So yes, I think the smarter thing I did is understanding my priorities, how I want my time management, and very important, asking for help, because a lot of women do not ask. Like I asked my mom and dad to move.
Okay.
I asked my husband to do XYZ because I want to go there. Would you be able to pick my daughter, or would you drop so I can pick? And that is how it happened, because I didn't go with, assuming that everyone should be there and then feeling sorry for myself. So victimization is not how I move forward. I always think that I work from a space of being self-empowered, and that's how this happened.
Okay. And life coaching, is that something you do side by side with your consultancy, or like you need?
It started last year. So what happened is, and this again started because even when you're doing all of this, there came a point in my life last year. So I have to give you a pretext to it. So 2022, most of the year, because I was on a very special project with one of the multinationals and who are headquartered in Kuwait.
Okay.
So I was spending 2 weeks every month in Kuwait.
Okay.
And for a hands-on mom who left her career to be here, like it was too much. So my husband, and that is where, you're a couple, it's a team sport. Parenting is always a team. He was totally taking care of all of this. There were months my mom would fly down and all of those. I was missing home, and I didn't want to, even though this was great money and I was like the best digital transformation projects you can take. I was working on it. I realized that something is missing. So you come between you and your success. So even if I was getting a project, another project, once this got over, I was getting from Saudi. And my husband was like, okay, do it.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't want to do it. Then what do you do? Because I also want to be productive. I also want to, bring in the money because you're used to, it's as a couple living in Dubai. Then I said, no, I need some time for myself. So I decided to, I met other coaches who helped me. And I was like, this is really nice.
Yeah.
How about I learn coaching? And it was an impact, very, very simple thing. It's like you pay a lot for coaching.
Yeah.
So I paid 2-3 sessions. I'm like, this is something I can coach myself. I think let's do a DIY.
Okay, nice.
And I actually took the certification of life coaching to coach myself.
Okay.
To become a better woman, to become a more, self-discovery, to align with my own goals. What do I want at this period in my life?
Right.
And to become a better mother. And of course, as a result, wife and all of those other things. And then I realized, wow, these are amazing tools. This is not like there are science behind it. There is this whole neuroscience behind it. And that is how these tools have come in. And how about I help other women through it? Because I do think I have a gift of gab and I can relate to them because I've been in the same journey as them. And so far now I have had at least 50 women I have kind of had conversations with.
Okay.
I believe they're better off after those conversations because they're still with me. So yeah, thank you. So that is where the coaching started. It started once I got time for it because I was not actively consulting.
Okay.
Can you test is this what you wanted?
Yes. आज खुश तो बहुत हो गए तो. मैं तो बहुत हूँ. Okay. You guys are having
Karak. We'll have Karak.
Sticking to the brand.
We'll stick to the brand.
So everyone, please come to Booker Cafe to have the best chai
and nimbu pani.
Yes.
And nimbu pani. Wait, let me taste it. Sorry, I'll keep it.
Yes. I have a question. Why do we need a life coach?
You don't.
Okay, why should somebody...
Or when should somebody...
Want to go, or when should somebody...
See, I don't think anyone needs life coach because all those questions and answers are within us. Okay? There are people who are spiritual and they find it in spiritual, books and guidelines and practices. And there are people who love to watch other documentaries about other people and read autobiographies, etc. And that's great. That's outward learning and you can probably take it from their life and get it. I think you need life coach because how many of us are truly honest with our own selves? If I ask you to today, okay, how about you manifest you suppose you make a goal that I want to get fit in 2024 in the next 3 months. Probably you will write something like, I want to lose 2 kgs and 3 kgs. Why? Because your brain thinks this is the most you can do. But what if there's someone else who tells you that, you're only doing the needful? But what if you're capable of getting 6-pack abs and you're not going ahead because these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fears that are holding you back? Because do you think your deservability is only so much? This is a podcast and I wanted to reach 250 audience. Who decided 250? What science was behind 250? There are people who want 200,000. Have you ever seen in a class, there are students who aim for, I want to get 80 out of 100. Okay. And there are some kids who are like, yeah, मैं pass हो जाऊँ. Maybe I get 40, 50. Very good. It will be amazing for me. There are instances when someone who is working for, manifesting or working hard for 80 might get 85.
Yeah.
But if you ever seen anyone who's praying for 40 get 85?
No.
So these are some of the technicalities which probably a coach can help you with. Because like I said, the person between you and your success mostly is you.
Can you repeat that again?
The person between you and your optimum success is mostly you.
Wow.
We are the speed bumps in our own journey. And then we find other people to blame.
Are you
processing
that? Are you self-reflecting?
Yes.
I think you need a life coach.
I mean, it's not you, Vishal. I'm sure you're not a speed post, but most of us.
So, you have 50 clients or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a, situation where you're like, man, iska kuch nahi ho sakta hai.
हाँ यार.
Okay.
कुछ नहीं हो सकता है, like मैं इसके लिए कुछ नहीं कर सकती हूँ.
Okay.
It's more like, see, you have to be coachable. There is something like coachable. And oh my God, I have 50 because I've said no to 100.
Okay.
Trust, not 100, but yeah, 80 at least. And out of those 50 also, these are my community, the group coaching people.
Right.
My personal coaching people are like 5 out of those 2 are still going on. And why is that? Because of course, there's only so much time I have in my diary. And I want to work with people who are at a stage in life where they really want to do it. Because coming out of anything any saturation, anything, whether it is a marriage, whether it is where you are at a job, whether you are in your head, it takes a lot of self-work. And our brain, we are designed as human beings. The brain is a wonderful organ. It helps us live like we do, but it also someone which is always in the self-preservation mode. So it would look at everything which is like extra out of comfort zone as threat.
Yeah.
So it will probably like be a condition. So sometimes you might get your gut one tell you that I must do this. 5 seconds later, your brain is like, are you sure? How will you pay the bill? How would you do all of those? So many times we lose the chances which our heart and brain, like heart and guts were telling us to do.
Yeah.
Whether it is approaching a girl who probably could have been your wife 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
Or
What do you mean?
or saying no to this person who you were just there because, but she loves me, but I'm not feeling it. But it is too much. How can I deal with this? There's going to be drama and all of those.
Yeah.
And these are very simple things. Probably not if you're in a bad relationship, not a simple thing. But that is why you have to have that acceptance. And imagine, like mostly because I coach women, trust me, and these are typically women in the age group of 30 to 45. They have moved here. They had this amazing, they're all qualified. They had amazing career themselves. They moved to this country as a +1 to their spouse.
Yeah.
Right.
At least my clients I'm talking.
Okay,
and if you take the stats, yes, most of the women in this age group, they have come in as an expat wife or family of someone who got a job here or is doing business here, right? There are very few people who like the husband and the family has moved because the woman got a job here.
Yeah.
It has not happened. And it's not just India and our subcontinent, but even Europe and America. It's mostly the women are the +1s, right?
Yeah.
So they come as a dependent on this person, and which is great. But then they realize that where am I? So some of them join this network and this women network. Some start doing kitty party, some start doing kirtan, depending on where they are.
Right.
But there is every woman, I think, and in today's time and age, we have so much to give. What it also means is that their chances for financial independence are reduced. Because again, they are on a certain visa. They require privilege, why I said, is because not everyone can afford a full-time maid and others. So probably at home, there are things that we were not doing. Like say the nanny rate in India versus here is very different. And you need to have a visa for them, etc. So those things you have to do by yourself. So then you realize like, what am I doing? And then there comes a point when you feel emptiness because children have gone to school. The husband has gone to work.
Yeah.
And you have this 8 hours
By yourself. Yeah.
by yourself. And you miss your own self, your old self, or you miss the potential that you could have been. Now, who's going to help them with that? Probably watching YouTube motivational video, yes. But where are the tools or the steps to reach there? Who's going to tell them that?
Right.
So that is literally the niche that I'm trying to work on, my companies. And that is where I started my company. I decided life coach like this, but that was always an entrepreneur's mind behind.
Yeah.
I said, no one is working here because probably the monies are not big. Probably these are the women, like there are so many great consultant coaches who are working on other bigger issues, which is great for them.
Yeah.
But imagine the volume here.
Exactly.
And if you can make an impact on someone's life, like one of my clients, great woman, she started working here. She had a driving license for the last 6 years, she told me. She never drove the car. And it is so emotionally, inside them that the husband was driving, so she never decided to. And I told her that tomorrow morning, I want you to wake your husband up, say that we are going for a drive, and take the keys from his hand and start the car. And the rest will follow. And I'm getting goosebumps saying this. And it happened.
Wow.
And she put a story out and she's like, look, Meghna, I'm driving. And now she drives her children to school.
That's so nice.
So it's a very small, but you realize as an emotional mountain crossed.
Yeah.
For a woman. So it doesn't have to be this one large thing of a background music going that I did climb Kilimanjaro. Good for them if they do. It's the day to day.
Yeah.
You know, the reason why I asked you the first question about like, why do we need a life coach or do we need a life coach was because I don't believe in the concept of hiring a life coach.
Great.
Before this. But I think you're the first person who has explained me what a life coach could do in someone else's.
A good life coach could do.
Good life. Yeah.
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 But it does. Because that is where the reason I wanted to be, because I met that one good life coach.
Right.
And I was like, wow. I mean, and I consider myself a well-read, very this thing. And then you fall into your own patterns. And the more kind of successful by the words you are, the more difficult it gets to look at your shadows. Because you don't want others to see. That's where you're imposter. You don't want others to see that, okay, in her time, she's actually not very good at this. So she's making it up with this confidence. But actually, she's feeling like very unsure of going and meeting this person for work or for project.
Yeah.
But why is she feeling unsure? What was it? Was it something that her teacher said when she was in 5th grade? Where is that fear coming from?
Yeah.
Does in her heart she believes that if she starts growing up in her career, her child is going to suffer because she left her career to raise a child? Like, where is the proof of it?
Yeah.
And we manifest everything we think. So once I start thinking that, I will find reasons to believe that, oh, see, when I was in Kuwait, my daughter fell sick 3 times. But there are 3 seasonal flus that happen regardless.
Yeah.
It's not because I was in Kuwait.
Makes sense.
You kind of connected with your own insecurity. All of us have it. Men, women, we have it.
Okay. Why do you say good when I say I don't believe in the concept of having a life?
Because unfortunately, and I hope government does note for this, there are not many qualification requirement and entry barrier to be a life coach.
Yeah.
So you can get online life coach, you can get like how you can get astrologer from anywhere,
Okay.
So I don't know why when you like,
just do their, like they have the study, they have the...
but have you ever asked that, show me your certificate? Have you gone to the Banaras Hindu University and learned an astrology? No, probably they learned it from online or something. So where is that? And I'm not saying that only educated people, like a certificate will tell you whether you're a good life coach or not. It is the experience. Because I had such diverse experience, because I've worked in corporate, run a business, being a mother, being this, being that, whatever, I may be a good life coach for this variety of people. I could be a horrible life coach for someone who is probably from a small town, had very regressive parents, had her own struggles, which probably I could not relate to.
Yeah.
So for me to expect that she would be like, want more for herself and want this thing, that is where I figured out, because that's why I said the privilege. The more people I spoke with, I realized, there's so many things for shukrana, as we say, grateful, that even the smallest thing that we take, like I never had to ask my dad that allow me to do these courses. But there are so many women who have to fight to even get a college admission.
You're right.
I never had to ask my husband that, can I buy these pair of shoes?
Yeah.
But there are women who have to ask their husbands to probably pay for a life coaching session.
Yeah.
Even today.
Even today, and they're wearing diamonds.
Yeah.
So it's not the lack of money, it's the lack of authority and financial independence. You see, so this is privilege.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
But the possibility is that if once women tend to understand, and men also tend to understand, that what they deserve, it all comes down to your deservability.
Right.
The confidence is not outside, it's inner. So once they realize that, no, I do deserve to be treated better. No, I have a voice and I want to say it out.
Yeah.
Then you will find the strength. Right. We have all seen our parents, like mothers, that something happens to them 40, 50, and they're saying, no, my son will do this.
Yeah.
And probably they have gone through years of conditioning of probably not being the spectator of the house, and they get that main character energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about that little push. So this coach could be that person who believes in her. So she learns to believe in herself.
But one basic question.
Okay.
If you are the life coach, then who's the person sitting in front of you? Student?
I doubt, because, again, I'm very selective of who I choose.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it is, again, it's two-way. I learn from them too.
Right.
So if I feel that, again, coachability. So again, another thing, very crazy concept. You are the sum total of 5 people you spend the most time with. So you are the sum total of 5 people you spend the most time with. So the people you spend the most time with are what? Your colleagues,
Yes.
your spouse, your whatever close family member, and your clients. whether you like it or not, they rub on you. Like after this conversation today, even if you do not like me, you would remember the things why you did not like me. If you like me, a part of me would be with you, would stay with you, and vice versa. So if I'm speaking with you, I'll remember, okay, this is what Vishal says. This is what he wants to do with his thing. Or okay, this is how we lay the camera angles if I want to do a podcast tomorrow. We are subconsciously and consciously always learning from each other.
Yeah.
So I believe, at least in my coaching, it's not mentor-mentee. I do not come from that space because I'm also not that qualified to come from that space. I'm not some guru. I learn. It is more experience sharing.
Okay.
And it's also where I see that objectivity, because they are not my relative. I can be objective with them.
Right.
And because they're also not so sensitive about how they would not feel judged if I tell them that. But if their own best friend would say, probably they'll say like, you get defensive, right? With the people you know.
Yeah.
With a third person, you're paying her to be objective.
Nice.
I think one last question on this topic itself is like, coming from a Desi background, a lot of people, especially men, for them, like, first of all, they can't differentiate between life coach and psychologist and psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And they all think like, okay, psychologist, I'm crazy. Why would I go to that? I don't want to look crazy. Life coach is like an ego thing. Like, why would someone tell me what to do?
Yeah.
How do you change that? And like, what awareness should you do to like change that mindset? Because I know a lot of my elders who would think like that. Maybe even some of my friends to this day who have this issue, like, man, I want to go, but what will people think of me?
I think it's a very, and like you said that us Desi kids, it is a very middle class problem.
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And think of anyone. Tell me, who is this business person you kind of really idolize, who you think has made it? Yeah. Anyone, say Bill Gates, for example.
Right.
Yeah. Or anyone who's the guy behind Facebook, Meta.
Zuckerberg,
Yeah. Do you think they have made it? They must have done something right. Do you know the amount of coaches they have?
Yeah.
The Ambani, like he's like coaches around him for everything, right? If you ever took sports, why is it that your dad was not teaching you cricket, but you went into a cricket academy and there was a cricket coach? Any athlete you think of, any Bollywood celebrity you think of, anyone who is worth something. Why? And where? Because you use the word ego.
Yeah.
They deserve to have an ego.
Exactly,
That, I have $1 billion industry. I have started 5 companies and like grown them, but they still go and talk to a coach.
Yeah.
Because coach is it's not Siri. It's not telling you the answer.
Exactly.
He is someone who's telling you what is inside your own mind and helping you take a calculative decision. In the words of Gita, like, I don't know if you know, Arjuna was a great warrior. He could have won the war anyway. But there was Krishna who was just telling him that, sure, dude, you want to do it this way? Or how about, like, no, he is my uncle. How can I, like, kill him? And he said, but it's not your uncle when he's standing in a war in front of you. He is so-and-so. So that perspective that guy gave, who was he? The life coach.
Makes sense.
He's God later, but at that moment, he's a life coach.
Wow.
So if he could do that, I mean, like I said, again, our religious, thing, what are they? They are kind of coaches. Yeah. But it's like that is open to interpretation. Some people can get beautiful thing out of it.
That is true.
But it is not customizable to you, your journey right now.
Yeah.
So that is why you don't have to go to a life coach. You can go to a spiritual coach. You can go to career coach. You can go to a mindset coach. Whatever your thing is, behavioral coach. But coach is a good word and it is important. And it's no more that, only crazies go there. Crazies. Yeah. I think all of us are crazies in today's definition. Previously, we were not diagnosed. Now we are diagnosed. Everyone goes through anxiety. Everyone has depressive episodes. All of us have someone has ADHD. Someone has this. Like all the naughty kids in the class probably were ADHD. Poor things, they did not know.
Yeah,
their moms, like everyone is. No, we are. We all have some. Especially the millennial. Anyone who's born in 80s, 90s for sure has. Because you're between 2 generations. Our parents were a completely different mindset. Yeah. And we have literally seen from that TV to mobile to AI to I don't know what. So we are the more messed up in our head. But the good thing is that we now have tools. And why should we not make use of it? Like the funny part, what I do not understand is people hire personal, like a physical fitness people, trainer.
Yeah.
They don't feel ego in that this guy's gonna tell me how to pick up the dumbbell.
Yeah.
And they are like dying inside.
Yeah.
Like, I want to speak with someone, and I could be in the closest relationship with people and still not be able to tell them your honest truth because you can't tell it to them yourself.
Yeah.
And you would not pick up a phone and pay, I don't know what, 100 dirham, 150, whatever it is, based on whoever you want to speak with, and take a coaching session.
Sean, you're into fitness. Do you agree?
No, but anyway, I think what my coaches said, again, even fitness is not 1 hour of gym. It is that whole day. It is your mind. There is a reason why his muscles are the way he is and mine are not. It's also one of the reasons why people don't go to doctors till something is like really bad. They'll be having a stomach ache and they'll be like popping in some pill in that go because, and then later that guy would say, oh, you had an ulcer. Like if you'd come 3 years back, I'll give you an analgesic and it was over. Now you've made it. So now the bill is going to be X amount and I'm going to operate on you and 3 months leave you will have to take or you have to go to your own country to get it operated because you did not take care of it.
Makes sense.
How many of us, like again, middle class Indian, like my dad till today, he's like, I don't want to go to a doctor.
Last resort.
Yeah, why doctor? They're gonna give. They are the fake. He would say. I said, thank God I didn't become a doctor. He's not gonna trust me.
Yeah.
But it is why again, can of worms, rightly put.
Yeah. Any other questions before we end it?
No, that's my part of questions. Yeah, for my
I think we normally to end the podcast. I normally used to ask what does success mean to you, but I want to make something different. I want to ask.
Oh, that's the question I prepared for.
Oh, you did? Yeah, so that's
No, kidding. No, kidding.
Yeah.
but before going there, it was like I've been.
He asked you want to ask.
Yes.
See?
Yes,
This is
See?
always.
And then he's like, no, now I want to ask. It's like, do you want samosa? And it's like, no, I'll eat from yours. Like, I'll eat your fries.
I always do that with him, but I didn't know he was going to end it. I was thinking he was going to ask some other question, but I was more of like, I wanted to ask you at the start, but I was keeping it for the end as well. So you are an achiever.
Huh? Okay.
You are an achiever. That's what I feel talking to you.
Okay.
And being the topper, I'm sure that there are a lot of things that go in your head
Oh, yeah.
all the time. How do you channelize?
I'm still trying, yeah. So again, because you said this is psychologically, there are people profiled differently. I'm profiled in something which is called as hyperachiever category. The sad part of that is the people who are in the hyperachiever category, they think they're useful only when they're productive.
Okay.
So they get their validation, self-validation through their work. So even if you tell me, Meghna, you're an achiever and you did this and that, I'm like, oh, but what's next? I do not sit and enjoy my wins. Because, okay, this is done. What next? This is the problem with a lot of achievement. I'm sure anyone, and it is also apparently very closely linked to the firstborns of the family.
Okay.
They are always tempted, like the parents are like, they want to prove themselves or they want to be better. So, okay, you did this. Now what? So they're always there. They never really sit and enjoy. Whereas probably a second or third one, they're like, oh, I did this. This is amazing. I want to throw a party. Like they get 60 marks. And they'll be at the top of the world. And the top was like, oh, I got 98. I lost 2 marks. That's the hyperachiever mentality. So this is something that I have figured out again. I got coached and I figured out that, oh, this is why I don't give myself enough credit. This is why it is uncomfortable for me to accept compliments. So if you say that, wow, Meghna, you're an achiever, previous Meghna would have said that, no, what are you talking about? I'm not. I mean, do you know who achiever is? Bill Gates. But in my own way, in my own thing, yes, keeping my daughter alive and being normal and being able to come drive here and this is an achievement. It's great, right? So this thing had not happened. So I realized that, okay, you have to enjoy small wins because they are the ones that propel you to big wins. And that's where I channelize it. But for someone like me, because that's how my brain is conditioned, I have to remind myself that and have more self-compassion than other people.
It's a good answer.
No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Double checking.
Yeah, I'm good.
Building on that answer, let's say, maybe 20, 30 years down the line, what would you say, like, what's the legacy you want to leave behind? People to be like, this is how I want everyone to remember me as.
My daughter.
Okay.
That is, if she's true to herself, if she's authentic. And then again, one thing that I've taught her, which is not a very conditional thing that Indian girls are taught, is that I always taught her that you don't have to be nice, but you have to be assertive.
Okay.
That is something super important. So her kindness is important, but I'm probably the only mother who's never taught my child to be the good girl, be the nice one, or share. I taught her kindness. I've told her to be, but then she has a say.
Yeah.
She would share this with you if she thinks that you're good enough to be shared it with, or if she thinks that you need it, so out of kindness, or if she thinks that this is something that is worth sharing, she does not need it enough, then she wants to. It should not because, that is a very wrong thing.
Yeah.
So what parents are trying to teach us, probably sharing, but very soon girls start to sacrifice way too much and they give more than they get, and receiving is taboo. How can you ask that person for this? You just have to give.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things, and these are just one example that came to my mind, but many other things like that, which I have learned, and which is part of my growing, my discovery at 30, 40. Yeah, I'm 40, I'm not 50 yet. So on these different journeys, different decades of my life, that I try to break it down for her. So if in 30 years down, if my daughter is not repeating the mistakes that I made, but making new ones, which are hers, I would be very proud. And that's the legacy.
Okay. That's it. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Meghna, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so
It was
much,
a
guys.
great episode, very energetic episode. To everyone watching, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Check out Meghna's Instagram. We'll put the link below. And check out Booker Cafe. Thank you for having us here, and see you next week.